I always tell them it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. The preparation is the same. You have 24 hours. I'm sure you guys have heard that before. 24 hours and it's gone. You have to move on to the next one. And I've told them, I use a lot of stories. I use analogies. There's a story. It's a true story about two fighters back, I think, in the late 70s, early 70s, Vito Anafirmo and Cyclone Hart. And I won't go through that, but I've told them that story about how close the margin between winning and losing is, and that's true whether you win it or whether you don't, and you got to move on. You have to move on to the next opponent pretty quickly. So I think I think they're fine. They understand that our preparation is not, my preparation isn't going to change, and so their preparation isn't going to change, and I think they'll bounce back.
Obviously it didn't work out this week, but the first three conference games, you guys were able to hold the ball like almost the entire fourth quarter against Clemson, Virginia Tech. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think, I'll say this first, that's the first time in my career, who did we hold it? We took it at 13 minutes against somebody and ran it down, gave it back at 2 minutes. I guess that was, all these games are starting.
Virginia Tech.
It was Virginia Tech. No, we never gave it back to them at Virginia Tech. At Clemson, we ran it out for a long time. Tennessee was 5:38. Georgia Tech, the one where we started at 13-something and gave it back with 2 minutes. Like I've never been in a game like that. But I think our kids love to run the ball, and I think Whip did a great job of calling plays. We have some new things set up out of that tackle over package that helped us, and they were surging off the ball and rocking them. And the unfortunate thing was we had a couple of penalties in that game, in Virginia Tech and the Clemson game. Otherwise, I think we'd have scored again. So that part was a little disappointing. But no, I thought they did a fantastic job.
With the success of the running game you just mentioned in mind, you obviously were throwing a lot in the second half because you were done with a great quarterback. But early in the game, even in the first quarter, you didn't run that much. Was that Miami specific? That game?
Well, I mean, we were down 21-7 pretty quickly, and
right.
So it took us out of the game plan in that regard, and we did have to throw a little bit.
You mentioned the tackle over package, that unbalanced line. How well has that worked out for you guys this year, or how do you feel like you guys have responded to that package specifically? Because it's something you guys have used in the past, but I feel like it's been more successful this year.
We've used it every year that, even prior to Whip coming here, we used it. We just, we had the run game out of it. We didn't really have the passing game out of it. That was the missing piece, and that's the part that we have now. And so what happens is they end up playing one-on-one coverage on our receivers, and load the box with 8 players, and that's why we ran that so much Saturday. But it's been a really good package for us, and I think our kids like it.
Is that something that you've used well in the past? I mean, even before whoever was calling plays here, is that something that?
Yeah, it was to give us a bigger body at the point of attack to run the power play. That was back in 18, and we didn't do it a ton, but it's been part of my background for a long, my personal background for a long time. And we were, we'd be in it and then get out of it and jump into, so maybe 3-4 times a game, and that would have been a lot back then. But it's been good for us really in both phases.
Is this season the most pronounced that tweak or wrinkle has been for you personally in your career? Or?
Yeah, I mean we've used it, if you're not really paying attention, I shouldn't say paying attention, but it's hard to even notice it. The defense sees it, but I'm saying to the average fan watching it, you might not even notice that it's tackle over. And ends up being a 7-man protection, which I think all of our opponents know that, but that's how it's designed. So it's been, we used it a lot last year. I think in 19, I think we threw the ball maybe 38 times out of that package, and ran the power play out of that quite a bit. So yeah, it's been a big part of the offense.
So you're putting two tackles back to Burton. inside each other, Gabe and Carter, right?
Right, correct.
Right inside.
Yeah.
And when you run, is that kind of tip the defense off? You run it to the right?
Well, we can run it. We can run it to them, or we can run it away from them. So
Either way, it could be effective.
Yeah. So we've been able to balance that out. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you've been focused on your group, but just working with that offense, what has impressed you the most about Kenny Pickett this season?
Well, I think Kenny. Kenny's pocket presence is, I think, tremendous. His escapability and ability to create outside the pocket is big time. And he's always been able to do that, but I think he's taken that to another level. I think in the past he would scramble to scramble, and now you see him, he scrambles, and he did it Saturday. He's scrambling and he's looking for receivers, and those guys are doing a great job of working a scramble drill and coming back to the ball. But I think those things he's taken to another level, and then his leadership ability and his calmness is fantastic. Not to mention that I told him the other day. I said I watched your interview after the game. I said, you're a great interview. I think he does a hell of a job, because he's kind of like Nick Saban. He answers the question and then stares at you guys and waits for the next one.
That's the kind of answers you like, as a coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you a boxing fan?
No, I actually, the first time I heard the story, I'm really not like that, but the first time I heard the story was from Al Groh in a team meeting.
Oh, okay.
And he talked about Vito Antuofermo and Cyclone Hart, and the difference and it really came from, he got it from, Bill Parcells has the whole article, or has a piece of the article as he told the story on his desk in a frame, and that was the first time that I heard it. And basically it's like one guy lost the fight and really could have won it. He didn't know that he could have won it, and kind of gave up at the very end. And I thought it was a great story, because it really illustrates the margin between a win and a loss is so small that sometimes you give up, and you could have won it.
Did you guys get the message?
Well, they've heard that story before, and I have not told it this year. I was actually gonna tell it last week, and I didn't. But the older guys have heard it before. But it's a good story if you read it.
Talking about a margin between a win and a loss, in terms of margin for error, just now with the ACC, with you guys picking up the first ACC loss, that goal to get to that title game, do you feel like the players in the facility knows now that the margin, I know you guys focus game by game, but that the margin for error is kind of smaller now after losing one?
Yeah, they probably do. I don't talk about it. We just talk about the next opponent, because you got to just keep winning. So whether, I'm sure that's prevalent, within the team, just nobody really talks about it. It's just all we focus on is who's up the next week.
What kind of looks will the Duke defensive front give you?
Well, they'll play. A lot of teams are doing this now. They'll play. Really, they're very similar to Clemson and to Miami. So they'll play a 4-down front. They'll kick that. They'll kick it over and give you a 3-down look out of 4-down. They do that to pressure you. Both the previous teams do that. It's become very prevalent, I think, defensively, and they've got a 3-down package, for 3rd down that they'll jump into, and they'll play coverage or try to pressure out of that. So there's really, honestly, there's a lot of carryover between what we've seen here the last few weeks, but particularly between Clemson, Miami, and now these guys. There'll be a lot of carryover. So, there's not a lot of new teaching involved in terms of, hey, here's what happens. All I have to do is tell them it's this front, and they know what it looks like.
Is Van Vin playing down there?
I don't know. It's funny. I came out. I was a little late coming out of the locker room after the Clemson game, and I come out. I don't know what door it is, right across from the Carnegie Center there, and as soon as I walked out, a lady and a guy were walking toward me, And like we met at an right, like we intersected. She's like, Borbs. It was Kelly Van Lint, Carson's
Oh, his mom. Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he was actually in town to come see some friends. I think he came to the game, but I don't know.